Hello, and again, I'm trying to start here with the trajikast podcast, the tragic truth, many tragic things, and we're gonna go ahead and get started today. And the topic today is not necessarily a topic, but a response. Not a response, but a response. Not a rebuttal, but a response. There's a big YouTuber called RobertJefferson, and he's a comic guy. He has a channel called Comics Explained, where he goes along and he talks about comics that have come out recently, and he gives explanations about certain characters that have come out in comics. Comics Explained. He also has a vlog channel as well, and he's doing a vlogcast. He's doing a podcast as well. I guess we can call this a vlogcast. And right now, well, he recently put up a video about how he thinks the mutants are going to come in the MCU. And for those who don't know, when it comes to the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they recently acquired the rights from Fox to have all their properties back to Disney. So people are wondering why or how they will introduce mutants into the MCU. How they will introduce all the big time characters, because Wolverine's a big time character, Jean Grey, Cyclops, all these favorite characters, Storm, how they will bring all these people into the MCU. And his thing was that he had a theory that Thanos brought the mutants into existence. How would this happen? Well, if you watch this video, he said that I'll try to find the video and post the link in the bottom, post the link in the description. He said that based on what they've written in the comics, as far as the Skrull invasion, that they allow themselves, the Skrulls allow themselves to be destroyed in order to be at a low enough number to accelerate the next generation, accelerate mutations and to become more powerful. Because in the lexicon of evolution, they were denied to be able to evolve to a certain level, to a higher level, because of something that he did in the comics. But I forgot what it is. But you go to Rob Jefferson, he'll tell you. Hell, you can even ask him. And based on that given the fact that the number was so low, that it sparked a evolution in the Skrull genetics. That, given the fact that Thanos in Endgame wiped out 50% of all life. That means 50% of all life throughout the entire universe, including 50% of all life on Earth, that the population was so low on Earth that it sparked an evolution of genetics. And that evolution usually is referred to in Marvel Comics as the X-Men. Well, not the X-Men, but mutants. That the genes would have mutated in a way that it would allow, the special powers to be allowed amongst the people. And I don't believe that. I know he goes into a great explanation in many of his videos. I'm not sending you to, I'm sending you to his channel. I was going to say I'm not sending you to his channel, but yeah, I'm sending you to his channel because he's done many videos on this. As far as, how mutants will be brought into the MCU. I don't believe this. I do not believe that because Thanos snapped out half of all existence, half of all life in the universe, that this would be the thing to bring mutants into the universe. I have always been a incursion guy. I don't know how many people incursion. I'm not on Reddit, not trying to get on Reddit. I know it's hell out there. And, not trying to yell into the abyss tell everybody what's going on, but you watch me and you're just trying to, I'm going to tell you what I feel should happen and how they should do it. Also in Endgame, because in Infinity War he wiped out half of existence, and in Infinity War he wiped out half of existence, Thanos, and in Endgame they progressed 5 years later. So what Robert Jefferson is saying is that within those 5 years, that it, sparked an evolution in genetics to create mutants. All mutants, came along at the same time as everyone else, and everybody is of a certain age. Wolverine, his whole story is that he grew up way before Captain America, and was found out, after Captain America, to be introduced into a program to give him his adamantium claws. So to even have him in the MCU, Wolverine, one of the most important people in comics, to have him in the MCU in any kind of way, you can't change his origin story that much. But number one, he has to be there before Steve Rogers. Either one. The one that got pulled out of the ice, or the one who stuck around and stayed with Peggy. Spoilers. And have adamantium. That means there's enough vibranium in the world that people have experimented on vibranium to make adamantium to be stronger than vibranium. Think about that for a minute. We haven't seen like 9,000 things of vibranium. We've only seen 2 things of vibranium: Black Panther's suit and Captain America's shield. Those are the only 2 things. How long have they experimented on vibranium to make a stronger substance than vibranium, being adamantium, which is in Wolverine's claws, that you had to bond to him? That did not happen. People don't have it, and believe me, if they had it, they would have used it, and they especially would have used it because at the point in time that they put it in Wolverine, it would have been after, on a timeline, it would have been after Captain America, the first Avenger. It would have been after that. They would have been working on, but they haven't at all, because they gave him the same shield back, and there's no other thing than the only piece of vibranium. In fact, there's been no other reference to vibranium technology other out of Wakanda. There has never been any practical use, quote unquote, practical use of vibranium in anything other than Captain America's shield, Black Panther's suit, and Ultron's body. And he didn't even use it for Ultron's body. He used the vibranium that he collected for a body, and that body ended up being Vision. Yes, Vision was the vibranium body. He didn't even use it for himself. Forgot about that. He did not use a vibranium for his own body when he was, big and whatnot, or what he was trying to do. So those are the only uses of vibranium in there. Yet there's enough study done on vibranium that they made a stronger substance in adamantium, then injected it in Wolverine. That's the point I was trying to make about Wolverine. Because if you're gonna do his story, that's the only way you can do it. That's the only way you can do it, unless you're gonna say that adamantium is a different substance, which is what they did in the X-Men universe. The Bryan Singer X-Men universe, that adamantium was a different thing. There was no vibranium in the X-Men universe. Remember that. No adamantium. The strongest substance in the X-Men universe, when it was owned by Fox, was adamantium. There was nothing below it. There was no vibranium, nothing like that. Adamantium was the alpha the adamantium was the alpha metal. Taking a drink. Okay, so why am I here? Why am I here telling you that I disagree with Robert Jefferson? And what do I think that how they're going to introduce the X-Men into the MCU? They already getting you a shot. In Endgame, the Sorcerer Supreme at the time was played by Tilda Swinton. And she said that the Infinity Stones are an anchor to all time, which brings up many things. I'll get into that later. If you pull one of the Infinity Stones out of, a timeline, one timeline may go all the way, from point A to point B, all the way to the future, to the end of the universe, the heat death of the universe, as Chad likes to say, all the way to then. But if you pull one out, it would create a separate timeline. Who's to say that there is not already a different timeline out there in which the Infinity Stones have been pulled out, and there's a separate one out there that no one sees? Excuse me. How is it to say that there's not already a separate timeline out there where no one sees? Because we know that there's a separate timeline because of Loki. Loki took one of the Infinity Stones, he took off. He took off, disappeared, and that's a separate timeline. Who's to say that the Infinity Stones were not, who's to say that the Infinity Stones were not already taken way in the past, and there are two divergent timelines going on right now? Well, what do I mean by that? Well, if they're two separate timelines, and if somebody's trying to rectify all of it, you have to put them together. And how would you put them together? What would you do? Would the only difference be in the mutants in the other universe? What am I trying to say? They're doing these what if shows and whatnot. Like what if Peggy Carter? What if Captain America died? What if Steve Rogers died or something happened to him, and Peggy Carter had to take on the super soldier serum? That's a what if. And there's several what ifs. I forgot what all of them are. But there are a lot of what ifs that's supposed to be going on out there. What if there's a break in the timeline way beforehand? Because they're not introducing this stuff to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and do this. No, they're telling you this stuff is happening in a certain timeline. And that timeline has to exist in order for it to go on. So who to say mutants not? There is a timeline. Well, not timeline, but there is a storyline in Marvel Comics, which I've learned from Rob Jefferson, the person that I referenced at the beginning of this video, that there is encouraging storyline. And the encouraging storyline, as I know it from Rob Jefferson, is that there is a multiverse out there. And in this multiverse, you have many Earths out there, coexisting on a multiversal plane. And somebody created an event that ended up pushing each universe into the next. What that ended up doing, that the nexus of this incursion, one universe going into the next universe, that when, I can explain it, when one multiverse collides with the next multiverse, it collided at Earth. Okay? So how both universes collided was at Earth, and that was the nexus point of both multiverses. And whoever won, just existed, and the other one was destroyed. So it's who protected whose Earth the best. That was the encouraging storyline. That is how you can do mutants into, into the MCU. What if in the past, and mutants go far off in the past, there are many mutants who are far older than most humans nowadays. I mean, you have Apocalypse, who's been around for 3,000 years. You have vampires and all this stuff. And they're also introducing the Eternals. So who's to say that some action of the Eternals didn't interact with, Infinity Stones back in the day to create a separate timeline? Because we already know that the Celestials used Infinity Stones. Who to say that somebody didn't mess up a timeline some kind of way, and then there's a separate timeline where mutants exist? But that being said, with all these ancient things that they're trying to like pre-curse everything, who's to say that all this stuff is not going on in a universe where only mutants exist and Captain America, Iron Man doesn't? Thor will still exist because he's very, very old. Like he said, he's been around for thousands of years. And Odin would exist, so he would know what to do. So he would send Thor down to make sure that Earth is okay. Although him being impetuous and quote unquote unworthy, why he had to make the Mjolnir worthy. Because right now we don't even know. Right now they're talking about doing Thor 3. No, Thor 4. Sorry, Thor 3 was Ragnarok. So there's going to be a fourth Thor out there. Not only they're doing a fourth Thor, they're thinking about introducing Jane Foster Thor. Jane Foster Thor. Which means that Mjolnir is okay. Which in the current timeline isn't so. So that means Mjolnir has to either come together in some strange way for Jane Foster to get it, or like in the comic books, there was a Warbound Thor, that the Thor from the Ultimate Universe lost his hammer in the main universe and ended up getting picked up, and there was a third Thor running around there. And in that storyline of this third Thor was one of the Warriors 3. Balgar, whatever his name is, the fat guy from the Warriors 3, ended up being worthy of this Mjolnir. He picked it up and he started going around, but he walked around with Berserker Rage. And Berserker Rage, I'm talking strictly nerderific here. Berserker Rage is a state of mind that Asgardians, especially Thor, goes through, where they just have nothing but bloodlust. And this Mjolnir imbued its Thor with the Berserker's Rage, this Warrior's Rage, and that's how they went around doing business at all times. They were just mad all the time, and everybody was an enemy. So we haven't figured out how Jane Foster gets Mjolnir in any kind of way. She may even get it from a separate timeline, because we already know it's one. How did we not know? And it could be possible that the Ancient One from Endgame does not know that there's a separate timeline running out there that's far enough that she can't even see it. If it's close, you'll probably be able to see it, because she knows that if anything happens, a separate timeline would happen. And she warned Bruce Banner of that in Endgame. So we don't know where Mjolnir is coming from, is what you call it. Whether it's so, so magical that if just picking up, just picking up any part of Mjolnir, and you are worthy, would put Mjolnir together. Because in the third Thor Ragnarok, Hela just destroyed it like it wasn't nothing. Like, you have no idea. Bam, just destroyed it. And those pieces are still out there. It wouldn't be far-fetched to say that somebody went to that spot and just got all the pieces together. It would be nice if no one could pick up all the pieces and they just fell together in some kind of way. That would be nice. But we don't know how this is going to go. Whether it's Molnar from a different universe or the Molnar from this current universe actually gets together and she's able to lift it. We don't know what it is, but that could be a different thing. That being said, this is supposed to be about mutants. Okay. There could be possibility that there's a separate timeline. And my thought on mutants coming into the MCU would be the incursion storyline. What does that mean? That means, what if there's a powerful force who sees that there are two separate timelines and says, we can't have that? Would it be a celestial or whatever, and it says, we have to combine the timelines. We have to fix all this stuff. It could be possible that they choose a far down the line point to fix it instead of going all the way back to fix it. Because like the Sorcerer Supreme said, the one that Tilda Swinton said, that if you pluck it out at the point in time of, if you pull out a Infinity Stone out of the timeline, it would create a separate timeline. One would exist where everything happened. Thanos snapped everybody out, and he destroyed half of humanity, and then he destroyed the Infinity Stones. That would still exist, but it would be a separate one where something else would happen, and there would be a separate. And in that case, there would be a separate set of Infinity Stones. If that happened a long time ago, and that branch was so far off, and then somebody saw way off in the multiversal distance that there's a separate timeline, and we're like, well, we got to put these together. You can do the incursion storyline that way. And somebody try to put them together and say, like, okay, everything's going to put together. The Earth being the nexus of all the Infinity Stones. Being the focus on all the Infinity Stones. Well, the vast majority of the Infinity Stones, because the Time Stone is held by, the wizards, held by the wizards and magicians. Power Stone hadn't been on Earth, but they brought the Mind Stone and the Space Stone were both on Earth. Okay? The Space Stone was put on Earth during Captain America's timeline, and the Mind Stone was brought on Earth by Loki, given to him by Thanos. You can have some literary, point where, like, well, the Mind Stone and the Space Stone were always supposed to be on Earth, and the Time Stone was always held by the magicians. I'll get to the Time Stone in a minute, but you can always say that, oh, if that happened in the other universe as well at the same time, that can be another link to sit there and say, well, these universes are supposed to be together. It's too much chaos out there. Things said by Mordo. There's too many wizards out there. You don't want all that chaos, all these wizards having all this magic out there, doing all this stuff. So what if there was some celestial being who said and said, well, we got to put all this stuff together and we'll find a way. They're putting everything together, just, finding some way to put all them together. If that was happening, say that we're going to have an encouraged storyline, that we're going to put one timeline together with the other timeline, and if there's a fight, whoever wins, and they exist, it could be interesting. The mutants, although having, technology, they would not be able to, although having technology, at that point in time, wouldn't have the ability to go through time if it was not from a mutant. Because they have several mutants that can go back in time and, whatever it is. I can't think of the names. I know they had Blinks and Sprite. What was the name? Put a picture. I'll find but I'll put a picture up on screen. She was the one who sent everybody's mind, like, back in the past. They can still draw on that as well. Just and say, well, we're not going to let you do that because we're going to tell somebody in the past that, you know, you need to take care of the Infinity Stones so that we live. But it would be interesting to have a storyline where the Infinity Stones have separated two timelines, and then they put them together, and then you're fighting in some kind of way to put them both together. I see it as they try to put it together, try to put the timelines together, and it's only be one, you know, one Earth and and one Earth gets to be destroyed. That Earth being destroyed is the mutant world, and the last thing that they can do is Magneto ends up holding the Earth together that was trying to be brought in, and that would be, you know, Asteroid Imp. Like he's so strong that he can hold part of the Earth together, and only remnants of the mutant population and some humans are left, you know, left on this asteroid, holding it together along with Xavier and which can lead to two things. That if he can't hold it together, as strong as he is, if he can't hold it together, Xavier may need to help him, because in the X-Men universe, although they may not use that here, but they may reference it, that Xavier has to, you know, calm him down so he can hold it together. And in that, they may, you know, start combining psyches. And what storyline in the comic books did Magneto and Xavier combine psyches? That was what is the name? I see him. Onslaught storyline. They can do that. Like they just, like, Asteroid M is off in space, is doing his thing on the other side of Earth, and is doing his thing. They make sure that it doesn't affect the tides and whatnot. But yet and still, after the psyches of Xavier and Magneto come together, then everybody on Earth has to deal with, you know, Onslaught trying to destroy everybody. Because if they did that, then you can have it where the populace will still be distrustful of these mutants, because these mutants would then be from a different Earth. Because then the question becomes, how do you put these people with powers on Earth? And given the fact they already seen, you know, they may not trust Thanos, but you have Scarlet Witch, you had Quicksilver, they know about Quicksilver. They, you know, you have Captain Marvel. You have all these people on Earth now who have these special powers. Even Captain America, they know Captain America's juiced. You know, you have all these people with all these special powers. They trust these people. I mean, they just trust them in like a small way. You know, in a small way. You know, governments do, because, you know, you gotta be able to control people and everything. You can't have these people with these strange powers. You know, Hulk had these powers. Captain America has some powers. Scarlet Witch has some powers. You know, all these people have powers. These people are trusted by the American people. How do you introduce a group of people that are then not trusted? You tell them, these people are from a different world. They're like you. They can look like you. But they're not you, and they're not from this world. That would be the distrust that you would have when it comes to mutants. Because when you think of mutants, you think of otherworldly, and that's how you can have a distrust for mutants in the MCU. That's how you would do that. I know there's another thing that I want to talk about the Time Stone, that they tried to explain in Infinity War, in Avengers Infinity War, that all the Infinity Stones were an aspect of the universe. You know, reality affected the reality of the universe. Time Stone was a aspect of time in the universe. Who's to sit there and say, excuse me, who's to sit there and say that the Time Stone couldn't come back together on his own? Because in the comic book, if I understand it right, also, I can understand this from Rob Jefferson in an Illuminati storyline, that Thanos was looking for the time, excuse me, my voice is just all out there. That Thanos was looking for all the Infinity Stones, and supposedly they were destroyed because of the incursions. In that storyline, Captain America tried to use the stones to push back a different Earth. Try to push back a different Earth from intruding upon them. He used up all the powers in Infinity Stones. It's the strong in the universe. Why would it destroy itself? But he used up all the power in the Infinity Stones, and all of them were destroyed. All of them were destroyed. And Thanos like, no, where are the Infinity Stones? They are mine. I'm looking for them, and they can figure out. Gonna find out the Time Stone had already moved itself throughout. Excuse me. Had already moved itself throughout time. So all they had to do was find the Time Stone, and the Time Stone would have led to the rest of the Infinity Stones. That could happen in the MCU, because if the Time Stone is just an aspect of time, who's to sit there and say that it still doesn't exist in the current storyline? 1, 2, if you find the Time Stone, you can just go back to where Thanos destroyed them and put them back together within the current, within the current time. Because Doctor Strange has already told us that, you can use the Time Stone to go through time. He used it in one way in the final battle where he moved everything backwards to get Wong back. But he also showed that when he was messing with the apple in Doctor Strange, that he moved that apple throughout time. The apple throughout time. Mind you, you heard this before, because when he was messing with the van, trying to figure out how to go through time to fix everything, to fix everything and to fix the timeline to get the stones back, they was pushing time through Scott. So who to say that they can't do that with the rest of the Infinity Stones? That all they have to do is get the Time Stone back, and they can push time through the Infinity Stones to bring them back to the current storyline. They probably wouldn't bring them back, but it's too much of a thing to say, no, we're just going to leave them out there. And we're just going to leave, we're just going to be, these are the most powerful things in the universe, and nobody can figure out a roundabout way to bring it back. No, they're not going to do that. So I was always thinking that if they know where he destroyed them, they can bring back the stones, all of them, in a current timeline, and then bring them back to the current time in any kind of way. That would be a weird thing. And then that Thanos that had the stones would go off in his own timeline. Although it would be close to the current one, it wouldn't be a big thing, because all you had to do was affect the Time Stone, use the Time Stone powers on those Infinity Stones, and bring them back to the current time. It can be done. They'll probably do that like 15 years from now. I don't surprise nobody ever thought about it. Surprised Dr. Strange had thought about it. Like, we had a Time Stone here. Like, really? You gonna send them back? Let me borrow the Time Stone for a minute. I'll bring it back in 5 minutes. Because that's all he needs. He can go back to any planet. They're like, he destroyed them on this planet. Okay, Time Stone's back, and all of them in the Sanctorum, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is. He can hold all of them there, and they would never even know. You know what I'm saying? That's what he can do. But that's just my thought as to how they can bring mutants into the MCU, that they exist on a different timeline, that they just came to be in a different timeline. Maybe even they are the product of somebody warping reality and changing genetics, because genetics is just a random shuffle of the cards. So if in one timeline there's mutants and another one there's not, you can have the encouraging storyline where there's none but mutants on this planet, mutants on one planet, and it's not on another one, and then you can go through and have the mutants, infiltrate society in some kind of way. But that's the way I see it, and it's just the one thing that nobody's talking about, that you think they wouldn't bring up. Nobody's been bringing up the encouraging storyline, because of all the storylines that they're trying to bring into the MCU, and they end up mentioning that you got to be careful of the Infinity Stones, because if you mess with the Infinity Stones too much, it creates a separate timeline. Who to say that hasn't already happened for you to sit there to say that it hasn't already happened? It's just so far of a branch that you can't see it. But that's just my thought. And how long have I been going? I've been going for a minute right now. But it's just something that I just wanted to bring up, and just a thought that if you have not thought about the encouraging storyline, and mind you, the link to Rob Jefferson's page is going to be at the bottom. Like I said, this is just a thought. He has talked about all this stuff himself, but he says that how mutants will be introduced into the MCU will be by Thanos. Well, Thanos have introduced mutants in the MCU because of nature taking care of itself will have created powerful beings in the absence of everybody else in this society. Okay, fine. If that's what he wants to say, fine. I think differently. I just want to give you my opinion. And if you want to watch his channel and you haven't seen it yet, go ahead, watch it, and you can go through all his theories of what he says that is going to happen within MCU. He says that he's been correct on most of them. I say hit or miss, but okay. But go enjoy his channel. You can enjoy mine as well. I'll be doing this every now and again, and I appreciate you coming out here. Go ahead, like and subscribe. To the trajikast podcast. And until next time, thank you.